This is supposed to be a titanium color Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, and I'm going to show you what colors they are available in at Samsung.com. I am disappointed there is no white. The previous devices that I had, I didn't intentionally do that, but my iPhone 12 Pro and my Samsung S22 Ultra were both white with the stainless steel grills. It looked fantastic, by the way. Or at least the chrome trim. I forget. But anyway, point is, this is the latest update, and the reason this is, I guess, a big deal for a lot of us that have been using the Ultra, or before that, what it was called the Note, is they finally got rid of that curved display. They launched it back on the S7 series, where they had two devices, the Note 7, no, excuse me, the 5. They had like the Edge versions of them, and then there was the Note 5. So the S7 Edge, no, it's the 7, was really trying to drive home the point that you can go curved display was the more premium experience, but it didn't have the stylus. So if you wanted the stylus, you got to go with the Note lineup. But then when we got to the Notes, I believe it was Note 7. That's the one that had the battery that was blowing up. But the last time we saw a flat display like this on this rectangle was with the Note 5. I missed that phone. I have that phone. In fact, it's broken, unfortunately, but I don't have it here in the studio. But that's the last time there was a flat display. So we haven't seen that. So there was after that was the Note 6, the Note 7 that was truncated, the Note 8, the Note 9, the Note 10, and they jumped over to the Note 20. They skipped to 21, they jumped to 22, 23, and now we're to 24. But they got rid of the whole Note discussion. Now it's the Ultra. So is this really ultra? This is like a $1,700 device. That is insane. Is it that much better though? Look, yours truly did not spend that much on this device. I traded in a phone for a reason. I got 650 bucks for my S22 Ultra. But I gotta tell you, when I first held this, like there was a difference. It is lighter than my S22 Ultra. I don't have it here for comparison because I sent it back, unfortunately. But what you cannot see here that I wish you could is this incredible display. Besides the fact that it's a rectangle slab now, and you can use the stylus evenly across the screens. And by the way, I do use the stylus. So before that was one of the things that always annoyed me is that I would always trigger the going back because I don't have the navigation buttons. I use the gesture based navigation, but if I can go as far to the edge as I can, just going backwards is going to trigger the whole like, oh, you're going backwards. But anyway, the point is that writing on the screen is considerably easier. They updated the software where your writing is now straighter. I write all caps, by the way. So let me see. I run. Oops, I can't even write. Hold on. There's a little thing. I must say, one complaint about the stylus is that the stylus itself feels cheaper than the previous generation. All right. This might not seem like that big of a deal besides my chicken scratch, but the thing is that this device, and including with the Tab S9, which is the tablet version, which I have, they did this thing in the software where it straightens out your text as you're writing it, and I could see it working. You probably can't because there's this. I'm streaming it, right? But it's a game changer for me just because sometimes I got to reorganize my notes after I take them. This saves me the trouble having to do it. And I think that's awesome. By the way, I didn't unlock my phone to do this. If you didn't know that you can deploy the S Pen from the device with the screen off, and it'll immediately go to off-screen memo, and you can start writing your notes. You put it back in, and then it'll save it. That's what it just did right now, and I did it on purpose. It's a feature that's been around for a few years on these Note devices, which is now Ultra. So I'm a big fan of Steins Gate, so that's my cover right there. Steins Gate, awesome artwork. You haven't seen it, check it out. It's awesome anime. Love time travel, check it out. Anyway, so fingerprint scanner works just fine. I only use two screens. I don't really go beyond that, but then of course there's the entire app drawer where you can see everything else. So yeah, I got a ton of apps in here. The phone is very fluid and fast. That's come to be expected with the latest chipsets, because if it isn't, there'll be a concern. But the screen, like I said, the enormous changes on the screen, you can only see it in person, which is unfortunate. So I can't really highlight it here. But one thing you might not have known, When you buy a Samsung device, the S24, like the Plus and then the Ultra lineup, if you don't toggle the display settings, you're not realizing that you're being gypped because you probably think, oh, the battery lasts very long. So I'm going to do something here, but I have to do it off camera so you don't see because some sensitive information and I can't censor it in real time. So let me do this real quick. Go on the display. I'm going to show you what I mean. When you take the device out of the box and you don't go and try to change any settings, you are actually using it at full HD plus. So that means it's pretty much 1080p. So it's by default set to here when you take it out of the box. I paid for a quad HD screen, so I always click it. One of the concerns about that is that you're going to drain the battery out faster. What's been incredibly impressive is the durability of this battery. At first, I'm like, well, it's very early on. No, this is an incredible battery champion. The chipset that's in here is supposed to save on power consumption, and it works. I think it's fantastic. So I do use that. I do use the what do they call it? The motion smoothness. This is something you could definitely not see on the screens here, and it's about there's the comparison about how fluid the screen is. Normally, a device is set to a 60 megahertz display when it's scrolling. This one's set to 120, and until you see it yourself, because you can't actually see that in person. I mean, you can't see it over the camera. You will never go back. That's why some people were saying that the iPhone 15s, for example, are expensive because they still don't have that. But the iPhone 15 Pros, they do have that. They actually introduced it, I believe, with the either the 13 or the 14 lineup, and they kept it ever since for the Pro lineup, making it feel like the screens on those displays for iPhones have been catching up. Okay, so let me get to my notes. What do I have here? The cameras, I'm gonna play a video comparing what the cameras experience have been like in a couple generations ago. So it's the Note 20 Ultra compared to the S22 Ultra, or at least I'll play it if I have the time. That's the first review I did going out in real life. I went to the Santana Zoo here in Orange County, California, and I was comparing the cameras. And for the most part, the camera experience on this device to the S22 Ultra has not been all that different. One of the big changes is, and I don't really like it, is these lenses, they protrude so far out. It really is um, jarring just how far these things are protruding. My S22 Ultra was more flushed in the back, so when I set it down on the ground, like on a table, and then I have to write notes or whatever, it wasn't jiggling so much with the camera. But then again, that's the same complaint that I would have for iPhone. So I felt that Samsung was copying them. This stove collection of cameras back here is absolutely bonkers how much they protrude out. Like they could have at least thickened the phone out to put a bigger battery just to make it a little more even. But of course, Apple being Apple, they wouldn't do that. So the other thing about this device is how camera the edges here are symmetrical. That's something that we couldn't get, or at least we couldn't really see it because of the curved displays. But here, you definitely can tell the difference. And honestly, for me, as cool as it looks to have it all looking even, it looks like I actually have less screen. That was one of the cool things about the curved display because the screen bent all the way around. It really looked like the screen was wrapping around the device. Now that it's flat, where you can see the end of it, now it kind of feels like the screen is smaller, but it's not. It's actually the same size, if not maybe uh like the ratio of of an inch bigger. I don't know if it's 6.8 or 6.9. I didn't get those specs. This is running the Snapdragon Qualcomm chipset. I believe it's the second gen of the Snapdragon 8. I'll confirm those here in a moment. For those of you that are spec heads that care about it, so I'm going to pull up the information from Samsung.com. But as we're still continuing on with this device, one of the complaints that people have about Samsung is their duplicate apps for everything, like messages, galleries, and things like that. Yours truly actually uses the Samsung based apps because the experience is actually very different than using, say, the Google experience. But for people that want to keep something consistent, if they're bouncing around different Android devices, of course, using the Google ones will be a uniform experience, is a more minimalistic experience. But then again, so is whatever Samsung has going on with their devices. Now, let me pull up, just making sure there's no sensitive data here because I want you to see some of the things that you can do here that you can't do everywhere else. Well, you guys might see some information here. Well, I'll try to show. No, I can't. So I'll tilt it like this so you could probably tell. Because these screens are so tall, what I love about what the thoughtfulness of One UI is that Samsung knows these are really tall phones. Not everybody has big hands. You can drag it down so then you can have more screen real estate, but these are more accessible to people holding it from the bottom, so you don't have to stretch all the way to the top. I think that's pretty awesome. When you're in the home screen, you can swipe down anywhere on the screen, you bring it down, and then you can access everything here. Bring it down again, then you get the toggle notifications, toggle your settings and things like that, and it looks like a much cleaner experience. Let's see how bright the screen can get based on what this camera can see. Okay, so if only I could stop hitting that post. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's gonna blow out. This is a super bright screen, and if you go outside, it's just no problem. Look how much the colors are being washed out. When you're out in the bright sun, it makes a big deal. I can definitely tell the big difference between this and my S22 Ultra. But here is the big difference that unfortunately you cannot see on the display. The big deal is this anti-reflective coating on the display and also the scratch resistance. Anybody that's a fan of Jerry Rig Everything, when I didn't get the phone on time, even though I pre-ordered, so he ended up getting the device and then he was putting it through its paces. If you're not familiar with it, he ends up scratching up the screen. Says you start seeing deeper scratches at level 6 with deeper grooves. At level 5 with deeper grooves at level 6. This time it was you start seeing scratches at level 6 with deeper grooves at level 7, and that was like in a decade. We finally get a screen that's even more resistant to scratches, and that's this one, and it's incredibly impressive. So I don't have that many concerns with it, but I do use a case, and I ended up picking the silicone cases for from Samsung. And here's one silicone case. This is supposed to be their white, but it looks more like an eggshell. What I like about this silicone case compared to previous generations, it's not as sticky, so it doesn't. It's grippy, but not sticky like the previous ones were, so it doesn't feel icky when you use this so long. But what I don't like about it, and I'll show you. Now the phone is incredibly thick. Remember those camera protrusions I was telling you about? Well, now they're flush, which is good, but it also means the phone is incredibly thicker. So now I can't actually mount this on my car mount. I gotta take it off the case to put on a car mount. And I don't normally buy D brand. I don't do skins on my phones. I usually wear them like this, the way God intended. um, but this one, I feel like it needs it. And honestly, I am not a fan of the titanium color. It looks more gold and it doesn't really look titanium like the more natural look of the iPhone. So that's the other thing. It's like, Samsung, can you be your own thing? Stop trying to keep up with iPhone. It's kind of annoying. But anyway, this is the more natural color titanium, not this one. So this one feels like more of a gold phone. And you know what's criminal? There is no option for a white smartphone color for the S24 Ultra on their website. They have some exclusive colors only available on Samsung.com, but they do not have the white color. At least Apple still brought out a white version of it.